Hello, and welcome to another episode on Alchemy with Alea. I am your host, Alea Keeles, and today we're going to be talking about shadow work. I really feel like shadow work is definitely something that we need to be discussing and talking about and integrating, especially as a society and as a community. Shadow work is an extremely powerful and spiritual tool. Now, you will find a lot of things in the spiritual community and online and everything, and you'll find that shadow work is a healing modality. And it was coined by a psychoanalyst called Carl Gustav Jung. And he was extremely brilliant. He was, once you hear his name and you see his name, you will see it pretty much everywhere, anywhere spirituality, a lot of, psychology, psychoanalysts, and all the, like, you'll see his name everywhere. And I do want to point out, especially if if you're part of social activism or anything like that, and understand the different topics such as cultural appropriation and different things like that, you will find that some of the texts have mentioned that he has used other cultures' understandings of shadow work in order to create shadow work and coin the term and create it into his own thing. I'm unsure, I'm uncertain about this. I personally have not seen anything that supports that, but I've never seen anything that doesn't not show that as well. So that's just something to bear in mind. So when you're doing your research and you're looking online and you are looking up shadow work, his name will be probably the number one person that comes up for shadow work. And I just wanted to put that out there just so, you understand where I'm coming from and you understand that the different nuances of these spiritual practices, and being informed and understanding, and paying tribute to other cultures who have, done the same kind of work. Now, with shadow work itself, the core meaning below shadow work is really getting down to the root of your conditioning, down to the root of your triggers, getting down to the root of your shadow parts, the parts of us that we don't really want to necessarily look at, like our emotions and our feelings, and mostly the negative ones. Now, there's no real negative emotions. They're just negative emotions are our associations with those emotions. But honestly, if you just sit in anger and you're not acting out and you're not internalizing, but you're feeling angry, is that necessarily really bad? If you're just sitting here and you're just feeling angry, you're not really, you're not hurting anyone, not doing anything with it. How is it a bad emotion? It's our associations with it. Now, this is shadow work at its core. And like I said before, you will see Dr. Jung's name pretty much on shadow work, but the core basis of it is that underlying conditioning, that underlying, the emotions and the triggers and all of that stuff. So those underlying triggers and everything like that is what shadow work is. And having a name for it it makes it a lot easier to, bring understanding to this term and to this healing modality. Now, I have seen shadow work be used in other cultures and with other modalities. Shadow work has also been used and used very frequently and as a basis for healing in shamanic work. It has also been used in Tantra as well. It's this understanding that we all on this planet have a darker side, a side to us that we don't really reveal to society. There's part of us that we keep hidden and pushed down and away from, the eyes of society and our community, even from ourselves. Our shadow is a hidden part of ourselves. Now, the shadow also works in conjunction with the subconscious mind. So anything that we have pushed down, anything that we've pushed aside, anything that we have pretended isn't there and just swept it under the rug, it's basically just a lump under the rug, and we haven't really done any kind of actual cleaning, and we haven't integrated that, that stuff that's underneath the rug. So shadow work goes in, clears that out, and helps to, integrate these darker and deeper parts of ourselves with love and compassion and curiosity. When we take a look at our triggers, this is one of the biggest parts of shadow work, is understanding our triggers and understanding our emotions around those triggers. So, for example, whenever I'm teaching a course about shadow work or teaching a live or a masterclass around shadow work and anything about conditioning or triggers, I bring up this example of a trigger that I had when I had a lot. We have a lot. We have a lot of different things that, need integration and love and understanding. So we have a lot of different things that, come from our conditioning and come from, the way that we were raised, the people that raised us, the different things that were okay, the different things that were not okay, all of those different things live in our shadow and also within our subconscious mind. So we're not even really aware of our shadow 80% of the time. So in order to work through our shadow and provide that nurturing care and love to our shadow, we must first understand that these negative emotions aren't actually negative emotions. They're actually super powerful. They are super powerful in helping us understand where we are out of alignment with who we are and how we want to act and how we want to behave. And when we understand this part of ourselves, we can love our whole self. And we don't have to hide away from these different things that we think are shameful. So, in order to get down to the root, and sometimes with some things like traumatic events and stuff like that, I don't necessarily suggest to go down to the root with those traumatic events. Sometimes it's just okay to acknowledge that they happened and to soften around what has happened and be able to consciously make the decision to love yourself and to integrate yourself and love yourself wholly and completely and move from that space. So I'm not talking about extreme trauma. I'm not talking about extreme, situations, just little triggers that, happen on a daily basis. So for example, the one that I always bring up is when I first was introduced to shadow work. I had been doing shadow work already for about 3 years. And then someone introduced me to shadow work, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this pretty much like, this last 3 years. So one of the triggers that always come up for me, it's really funny because you don't realize how many things like set us off. So I had a friend I had a really nice friend. I really looked up to her, and we're still friends. And we were connecting and talking, and we were connecting about our love of tea. And I went to look in my cabinet. I took a picture of it, of my tea cabinet, and I sent it over to her, and I said, look, like I love tea too. And the first thing that she texts over is like, oh, well, you really need to clean that cabinet. Like, that's a mess. And right there, I felt the spiral. I felt the spiral of unworthiness and unhappiness and it just sent me swirling down. And at the time I had a shadow work coach that could help me move through this trigger. So luckily I had somebody that I could talk to and that understood this process and helped me get through to the other side with love and compassion, like I said. So I talked to her, my coach, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, help me. I feel really triggered right now. Like, I don't understand like why I feel totally awful. This does not feel good. Like, what happened here? And we were walking through it. And what we understood and we found out about myself and my own shadow was that by having someone tell me that my cabinet was messy, it deemed me unworthy for love. It deemed me unworthy for happiness. It deemed me unworthy for being a mother. It deemed me unworthy for pretty much anything. And this is what shadow work will help you move through, is understanding those emotions, the emotions of fear, the emotions of neglect, the emotions of guilt and shame and grief and unworthiness, and all of those different things that we have put into a box as a society and said, these are ugly, these are horrible things, they don't feel good, we're just going to put them over here. Like, we don't look at these things, we don't talk about these things, and we just kind of stuff them over here, and we're just going to pretend like everything is okay, everything is fine, everything's okay. We're just not going to go there, we're just not going to talk about it, we're not going to look over here, just look over here instead. So shadow work actually makes you look at these things and integrate yourself as a whole being, because after doing the work with my coach on that, I realized that that was the most ridiculous thing. Because honestly, if I am ever to meet anybody watching this video, I'm sure as hell thinking that nobody really cares that my tea cabinet is a mess. And even if it is, or it's not, has nothing to do with my worthiness as a human being who deserves love and who deserves compassion and who deserves to be on this planet just like everybody else. My tea cabinet doesn't matter. My tea cabinet doesn't matter. And so it's that underlying emotions and feelings below that trigger and being able to integrate it. That's what shadow work does, is being able to work through those things. And like I said, I had been doing shadow work for about 3 years before I started working with a shadow work coach. The thing is that our journey here on planet Earth in the 3D form, we are living shadows. We are living shadows. There is no getting away from it. There is no getting away from the contrast of this human life. We are spiritual beings. We are beings of love and compassion and light. Our souls are light. We're part of the divine, and we're here on this physical planet experiencing the physical manifestations of fear and shame and guilt and grief and all of those different things. That's part of the reason why we're kind of here, is to experience the entire array of these emotions and understanding that they're teachers. Our emotions are teachers of our mental health and well-being and our boundaries and our self-worth. They're teaching us how to move through those things and to look at these things and to still honor yourself as the person that you are, as a whole being, as a whole person. And so when I am telling people, or working with people to work with their shadow, and the first place that we go is we just bring a certain level of awareness to your everyday life. We have about 65,000 different thoughts a day, and 80% of them are negative. Our days are based off of our subconscious thought, our patterns, our belief systems. Pretty much everything we do every single day is habitual, and it is from the subconscious. We barely work from our conscious mind. So if we haven't worked through our shadow and our subconscious beliefs and thoughts and conditioning and patterns and all of those different things, if we haven't taken a look at those different things that are running our life, we'll continue to perpetuate the cycles in our lives and generational trauma and generational everything if we don't take the time to look at those things constructively and with compassion and compassionate detachment, and looking at them as teachers, not blaming ourselves, not shaming ourselves for feeling this way or behaving this way, or because I could have definitely, with that example of the tea cabinet, I could have definitely spiraled out of control and said, I am worthless, like I can't keep my tea cabinet clean, and just completely spiraled out of control, bringing in all of these other negative things into this reality that I was creating, that I was unworthy for anything. That's why shadow work is so important. So important for our society and for families and for generations. And when we finally sit down to do this work, that's why tantra and shamanism and all of those things are so powerful, because we are taking the time to do the inner work and work through those things so we can be the best human being possible. There is a quote from Carl Jung, and I love it so much. The quote is, now I'm just paraphrasing here. This is not the exact quote, but the quote is, what he said was, when we understand the darkness within, we are more able to understand the darkness of others. And it's so poignant, because when we can see ourselves objectively and from an observer point of view, and when we can see and understand ourselves and see our darker parts that we don't necessarily want to see and that are kind of uncomfortable, we allow so much space for healing and so much more space for living and so much more space for authenticity. We don't have to wear those masks. We don't have to pretend who we are. We don't have to pretend to be somebody else to fit in with society. We understand ourselves and we understand those around us. That's why shadow work is so important. It's so important. So if I can encourage you, if I can inspire you to do some inner work today, I would be so happy and so elated. And like I said, it doesn't have to be anything that is extremely traumatic. You don't have to go there. If you have anything in your life that is popping up in your mind that is a traumatic experience, please reach out to somebody that can hold space for you. So your therapist, your counselor, a coach, anybody in that capacity. If you feel like you're in a safe place to do so and you're in a mentally prepared state to do shadow work and you are ready for this journey, I applaud you. It is one of the hardest journeys to do, but it is the most authentic path to enlightenment. And when you begin to do this work, you will see the world in a completely different light. So if this interests you, if you go to the links below, you can find my free shadow work journal that you can sign up for, and you can start your journey today for free. So the thing that I started with on my journey was, I just took a second glance at my emotions and tried to understand where they were coming from. Where is this coming from? Why do I feel this way? because this incident that just happened, it already happened, but I'm feeling this certain way. This situation's not going to change. The only thing that can change is me and my inner world and how I behave and how I react. And so I started reeling things in and started observing and started understanding and started learning about myself and started integrating those different pieces and parts of myself that came up during these triggers. So again, like I said, if this interests you, click that link below, grab your free shadow work journal, and so you can get started on your inner journey and understanding more about yourself and from your subconscious that keeps things hidden away from your conscious mind so that you can start living in alignment, manifesting your desires, and really truly living the life that you deserve to live. We are living in a time where masks are coming off, and the only way to live is authentically and to who you are as a person, as a whole. So thank you so much for watching this episode. Like I said, if anything has resonated with you, please feel free to give me a like, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I would love to be able to create more content for you and bring more of this understanding and spirituality to you. And so be sure to give a like, subscribe, let me know how I'm doing and if any of this resonates with you. So I will see you next Monday, as this channel comes out every Monday, and I will see you then. Have a good week.